0 to 5 million is where you really learn to market and sell. If you want to become a professional, profitable, sustainable business, you have to put processes and you have to build out your production team and stuff like that. Do you agree?
I would agree 100%. Not only do you have to learn to sell, you have to learn how to train other guys to sell. I sold my way to 3 million, and then after that, you have to figure out how you can now get someone who's not the owner to sell jobs, which is tough mentally as an owner.
Welcome to another episode of the Build to Win podcast, where we discuss tools and tech for the smart contractor. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jonathan Weinberg. I am the founder and CEO of Builder Prime, the home improvement industry's most comprehensive and intuitive all-in-one business management platform with CRM, marketing automation, text messaging, estimating, production management, invoicing, payments, reporting, and much more. I'm here as always with your other co-host, John Kolbaska. John is the owner and visionary of Windows and Doors by the Men with Tools. John built this extraordinary profitable home improvement company from the ground up, and they provide worry-proof windows and doors for your home with the best warranty in the business. We've got a really fantastic guest joining us today, Kirk Koskiniemi. Kirk is the president at Ibex Roof. Ibex Roof is the only full-service residential roofing company you'll ever need in the states of Washington and Oregon. Kirk, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And by the way, it's really, as a New Yorker, John and I are both, from Staten Island. It's very awkward to say Oregon. I can't. It's like one of the hardest words to pronounce.
You did pretty good. Most people say Oregon or something like that. So.
I've been working on it. Like, we have a team member in Oregon, and it comes up every now and again, and I've been working on it. John, let's get a quick pronunciation from you.
Oregon, yeah.
It's very unnatural. It feels very unnatural, but anyway.
Doesn't flow.
It doesn't flow. Well,
great.
Well, Kirk, we're really excited to have you today. You're a bit further along in this now, but today we're going to focus on how you grew your company from 0 to 5 million in revenue. And, obviously we talk about the top number a lot, but the phrase is revenue for vanity, profit for sanity, right? So we'll certainly focus a lot on profit as well. That's the critical aspect of it. So we'll talk about, the profit, but to start, why don't you give us just a few minutes overview of how you started the business, where you're at now, and some of the key milestones along the way.
Okay, sure. I started the business in 2015, was new to the roofing industry, came from the fencing and decking industry. Long story short, was going to buy a roofing company. The guy that was going to sell it to me backed out, so I ended up starting my own. So I honestly had a pretty rough start because I didn't know anything about the industry. I had to figure out roofing. But basically started in 2015. Didn't break the 5 million mark till about 2020. So about 5 years or so. And, obviously had a lot of bumps along the way. Since then, we've grown quite a bit. Last year, we finished at just under 17 million in revenue. Which was 2024. And, we grew, 3 times as much in the last 5 years as we did in the previous 5, the first 5. So that's a great topic, the 0 to 5 million, because there's a lot of learning and pain there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations on all that growth. I mean, especially, from 2020 till now to more than triple it. That's pretty awesome. And we don't have to get into details of it, of course, but, I know profit has always been a big focus of yours, throughout that. So you're not growing just the top line. You're making sure that you're getting the margins as well.
Ideally, yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I struggled with it for the first, 3 years, which I think is pretty typical for new businesses. But, the first 3 years profitability basically sucked. So
3 years, Kirk, it only took you 3 years to realize that you needed to be profitable.
I mean, I haven't figured it out yet, but it really sucked the first 3 years.
Well, you've been figuring it out. So for those that don't know, Kirk and I, we travel the same circles. We're a part of a mastermind group where we bring our financials in, and we meet 3 times a year, and we review the P&Ls, and we look at the profit, or what some call EBITDA and stuff like that. So I've seen Kirk's journey to become more profitable, and he's seen mine too. So, Kirk is a profitable business, but he's still concentrating on it till this day. Ain't that right, Kirk?
It never stops.
Yeah. tweaking the numbers and finding the profit that's there. So, yep.
One thing I'm curious about, Kirk, is, you started in fence and deck, right? And, you decided you wanted to buy a roofing company and then started your own roofing company. Why roofing?
I went through the recession and I was, a 19 or 20-year-old lad, freshly married, one kid, no idea what I was doing. I went through the recession, in a fencing company, and we did a lot of fences and decks for builders and really not a strong, sustainable plan. We kind of went with the economy, and when the economy went off, thankfully I always had work, but the company I worked for went from like 14 employees down to 2. And so coming out of that, I really wanted to get into something that was, scalable, pretty strong, pretty strong hedge against,
Recession,
ups and downs of the economy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to work for any home builders or anything like that. I wanted to work directly for customers. That way I could build a brand and build my own business, not be dependent on, being a subcontractor to home builders to, feed my family. So roofing, my grandpa, I guess, was a roofer too. So that kind of weighed in on that decision. But for the most part, I just wanted something that was, scalable. I'm not the most creative dude, but I just knew that everyone's going to need roofs.
It doesn't matter, right? If your roof is leaking, whether in a recession or not, you need to get that fixed, right? So it's more of a need based thing where, than a want. Like myself, I've also learned that lesson back my first company. I was doing flooring, hardwood flooring. So that's, luxury item, people want a wood floor. And then when that recession hit, and was that 2008, 2009, the business fell off a cliff. And, I rode it out and recovered from it, sold that business in 2013. But it's what actually influenced me to get into the window and door business the second time around, because I had the same thought as you. I wanted something that was recession resistant, right? Yeah. So if your windows are drafty or they're leaking, unfortunately, homeowner's gonna call someone to get it fixed. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And do you do a lot of insurance as well, Kirk, or is it mostly retail?
So I don't do any insurance work.
No insurance.
It's all retail. Yeah. Again, okay. Well, our part of the country, it's not, there's not big storms. There's not big hailstorms. I've done 2 insurance jobs in my life, and I felt like I was working for builders again. And I was like, no, thanks.
Mm-hmm. And so why don't you work for builders, Kirk? Why do you work directly for homeowners? Why have you made the decision to do that?
The biggest thing, really, it comes down to the schedule. So with the homeowner, we schedule a job out for, the 17th. We show up on the 17th. We do their roof. They love us. We can own the process. Whereas with the builder, they're beating you up. They're owning the schedule, and they have, they can move it around on you, whatever direction they want. And I grew up working for builders, but they own the schedule. They own the pricing. As soon as someone a little bit, and there's some good ones out there, but 80-20 rule, 80% of them, as soon as they get some guy for $1 less, they quit using you and use someone else, and then call you when that guy screws it up. Then lastly, the main reason I do this is to get paid, and I get paid and I'm done from homeowners. I usually actually get a deposit and then get paid, and I'm paid the rest when I'm done. With builders, I'm having to go sit in their office to get paid, and I just can't charge enough for that. So
you don't run into any cash flow issues?
No. I have, but then they're my own fault. Nobody else's at that point,
Yeah, but typically working for homeowners, taking a 50% or deposit up front, running the job, installing the job, getting paid the same day. You don't have to wait 30, 60, 90 days.
Yep.
No aging receivables or anything like that. I imagine you don't probably have a long list of receivables. You typically get paid the day the job finishes, right?
Yeah, when I started, I had a ton of contact. When I started in roofing, I had a lot of contacts in the building industry. And so I worked for, those first years, and that's probably part of the reason that I struggled with profitability and struggled with really getting into that sweet growth curve where we're at now. I was trying to be both. I was trying to, because when you start, you got to, on one hand, you got to take what you can get. But on the other hand, you got to, figure out where you're going. And so I did, I worked for some of the builders that I had worked with previously and I was still cherry picking, only working with the good ones, but it did make, cash flow and profitability harder for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think John, you did some of that in the early days as well, right? I mean, you did some sub work and work for builders and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, you're right. Yeah. On the installation side, when I started the window and door company, I was an installation provider for some of the national, retailers and some of the larger companies providing installation services. And, just like, the same issues that Kirk would run into with the builders, it was the same thing, working at a discount, working around their schedule and then, waiting to get paid. Typically, although not as bad as a builder, it would still be, 7, 14, 20 days before you'd see payment. So
knowing what I know now, if you're doing 2 or 3 million, I wouldn't be working for builders. That's a good point to just start cutting them. Because I mean, if you got no work and you're trying to keep your guys busy, and a good builder is like a personal friend or whatever, you keep your guys busy. As a real small company. But after, I'd say 2 million, I'd be really focusing on what you're going to do.
I think where most companies, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, Kirk, but I think where most companies that are starting out, the reason that they work for builders or they subcontract and they work for other businesses is because they haven't figured out fundamentally how to market correctly. Right? And I think that that's the biggest issue, right? I think, and that's why we always like to talk about the 0 to 5 million. I like to call it, profit. You have to learn how to be profitable, before you can get past that. But I think the 0 to 5 million is where you really learn to market and sell. If you want to become a professional, profitable, sustainable business, right? I always say that like the learning to market and sell stage. Now, obviously you have to put processes and you have to build out your production team and stuff like that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Especially not only do you have to learn to sell, you have to learn how to train other guys to sell. Cause I think I sold my way to like 3 million or something. And then after that, it was like this whole other dynamic where you have to like figure out how you can now get someone who's not the owner to sell jobs, which is tough, mentally as an owner, and then B, it's just a lot of work to train someone in.
So talk about that, right? So you sold your way to your first 3 million, right?
Yeah.
What did you do to be able to get to the $5 million mark? You brought in a process, you brought in people. How did
So I did a lot of stuff that didn't work. Tried to, I think everyone has the same story. They tried to, as the owner, I had zero accountability for selling. I was very nimble and did whatever felt right and whatever I, knew in my gut. Once I brought on another person, I first tried to train them to sell like me. Obviously, that didn't work. Then at some point, I think 2018, yeah, I brought in John Inglis and did the John Inglis sales training. And basically, it was just, a 10-step sales process, not how I sold. And, started training some guys on that. And that's when it really started to click. So then luckily I had one guy in the training that really took to it. With hindsight being 2020, if I wouldn't have had that guy in there, like I may not have even believed the system, but, because 2 guys didn't take to it. And multiple other guys that we hired had a hard time learning it. Because that's the other process is then you have to start learning about sales management once you get a sales guy. But yeah, getting a system, getting the person, as long as you have any system, they're all fairly similar, but getting a system, getting a trainer, I think is probably the best money I ever spent, because that just gives you something to build on to train other people to sell.
Mm-hmm. And you remember, Jonathan, you were with me.
Yeah.
When I started the scale.
Yeah.
In the early days, we also contracted with John Inglis. And I was out there selling, and I was a great salesperson, but I was doing it my way. Right. So I think most owners that are in that 0 to 2 or 3, where they're the primary salesperson, they're the only salesperson, they're selling jobs, they get pretty good at it. I think as most owners, we're pretty charismatic, but we don't really know what it is that we do. It's just a natural for us, right? So it's hard for us to put it down on paper and teach it to other people because it's just a natural thing. So that's why I had gone to John Anglis and purchased his 10-step selling system. And actually, in my case, I found out that I was doing most of those things that he was teaching already. Not all 10 steps, but I was doing 6 of them. So when he laid it out for me, it was like, oh, okay, I'm doing that, and that. So it was much easier for me to transition into more of the sales manager role, bring people in and teach them because now I had a system. It wasn't like, oh, just go out and sell. You're a salesperson. I hired my first couple of salespeople. They're like, oh, I used to sell for this company. Okay, great. Yeah. Fog and mirror, go. And they were terrible, right? So it was just like, why aren't you selling? You told me you could sell because they were doing it their own way. There was no repeatable process, nothing that you can hold them accountable to. And when I had that John Anglis system, when I contracted with John, just like yourself, that's when I had something that I could, repeat, duplicate and teach and train. And that's really helped me too, along with the process. So we have a similar story there, Kirk. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard when you're the owner selling, when your options are either A, sell the job, or B, go back tomorrow and lay off some guys because you don't have work, you sell the job. So like whatever it takes. Whereas, to transfer that to a salesperson who doesn't have to go lay off the guys, it's a totally different mindset,
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary too to hand off the sales.
Yeah.
Team of our people, right? Because
they're going to make mistakes. That's part of it. Like
in most cases, they're not as good as us.
Yeah, they're going to miss. I would say now, now that we've got guys trained in, they're probably actually better than I was for accuracy and stuff. But when you're first starting, they miss stupid stuff that like makes you want to just like go back to, makes you want to go back to the field and take over selling again. But that's, not the move if you're going to grow.
It's frustrating because you talked about it. You can only scale to a certain point. You could only sell 3 million.
Yeah.
For me, my number was 2.2. I'm selling windows. You're selling roofing.
Yep.
Your average sale is higher. But if you probably looked at the total number of deals at the end of the year, it was probably the same, right? Because you can only sell so much.
Which, by the way, selling that much and running the company is not a great lifestyle for the family.
No, it's not a great lifestyle. So you have to realize when you're at that moment in time that although these sales reps may frustrate you in the beginning, 4 or 5 good sales reps are going to equal more top line revenue. They're going to give you top line revenue than you could ever do out there. And it'll allow you to kind of pull yourself out and concentrate on other parts of the business too. Correct?
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I think it's pretty impressive that you got to 3 million, just on your own. And then,
somewhere around there. No.
Yeah. Well, even if it's 2.5, that's, John, I think I remember, when we were working together, you brought in John at probably only about $1 million, right? Is when we brought in John Anglis.
1.9.
1.9? Okay.
1.9.
So, yeah. Well, I'd love to hear from the both of you. I think I know the answer, but if you can go back and do it again, would you do that sooner?
No, so say my business went under and I started tomorrow, with the new company, the first thing I would do was train in someone to do sales. Like I wouldn't go sell a single thing, frankly.
Yeah, I haven't run a lead in 5 years. But what I would say is, when I hired John Anglis and brought his system in, before I hired sales reps, and you remember this, Jonathan, I did go out and use his system first before I hired anybody because although he did a lot of the same things that I did, it was still different. And I wanted to go out and learn it and perfect it. And admittedly, I tweaked it a little bit. Right. And we all do. And it's okay. I don't think I've ever met anybody that's contracted with, John or Chuck, Toki, and all the other sales trainers that says, this is the Bible. We're going to use it this exact way. We all make our own little tweaks. But what that allowed me to do then was to really familiarize myself with the process so that I could teach it. I think I took about 6 months, Jonathan, running leads.
Yeah, I don't remember how long it was before you hired the first reps, but yeah, I know you wanted to do it yourself, and then you can teach it to the others, right? But you had a repeatable process that you could teach and you can train. And without that, it's like, it's the Wild West and everyone's doing their own thing. And there's no
knowing what
consistency.
we know now, Kirk and I, we obviously know until we have our 10-step selling system, right? That's something we take with us. If we start a new company or we open a new company, we have that. Knowing what we know now, of course, I would never want to jump into this running appointments again. Like I said, I haven't run a lead in 5 years. How long has it been for you, Kirk? That long?
Probably a couple years, maybe 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think you learn that pretty quickly once you have a staff of sales reps out there like, hey, you know what? Let them do that thing. It's repeatable, it's scalable, it's easier. Yeah.
So for those that are listening, right, and they're on their first business, maybe they're at $500,000 or $1 million in revenue, something like that. Just trying to get started, and they don't have a sales system, right? They've never had one before, like you guys do. If you want to start a new company, you already know kind of the process and you institute it right away, right? But somebody doing this for the first time, at what point do they go out and hire a John Anglis or a Chuck Toki, or figure out how to build that repeatable, scalable sales process and transition that off to somebody else?
That's a great question. Good, Kirk.
If they don't have the selling experience, then I would do it as soon as you can afford it, which is probably as soon as you can cash flow it, whether you can actually afford it or not. Because honestly, you're going to pay, I don't know, maybe $5 to $10,000 for a trainer or a system, maybe less. I don't even know what it is anymore. I think a lot of them do it monthly now, so you're going to pay $1,500 a month for a trainer or whatever it is, and then you train a couple guys, get them going on commission only. Your actual your hard overhead costs are very little. So I would say I would do it somewhere around $1 million. I don't know. 500 to $1 million, somewhere in there. Once you have a good product and you have leads coming in, I would do it sooner rather than later, I guess.
What I would say is, when you're first starting out at $500,000 to $1 million, even $2 million, as the owner, you're wearing a bunch of the hats, right? So you're wearing, you're the marketing director, the sales director, the salesperson, the production, whatever, right? So you really have to evaluate what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? So if you are not a salesperson and you can't learn to sell, you're going to have to do that sooner than an owner that knows how to naturally sell. Like in my example, right? Or like your example, you were able to sell to 3 million. I was able to sell to 2 million. And the thing that really, that pushed us to hire was the scalability, right? So in our case, it was, we wanted to do more than what we could physically sell, right? So we wanted to scale that up, where some owners, they just, they may be a production guy and they have zero experience selling, right? So they might have to do that sooner. Obviously you should learn to sell. I think that's a good skill to have, but some people, if they're not good at it, you've got to sell, right? So the answer is, it really depends on your strengths and weaknesses, right? Your job as the owner, Kirk, correct me if I'm wrong, is to evaluate your strengths and your weaknesses and start hiring people that are better than you, right? At your weakness, right? So you want to fill those seats in the org chart. So the answer is, I would imagine it really.
Yeah. And the only reason me selling to 3 million was not a good thing, because to get there, I talked about having trouble with profitability the first 3 years and that kind of stuff. I was so focused on selling and getting that top line that I wasn't building the products, the systems, and monitoring the profitability. So again, I wouldn't see the $3 million high water mark as a good thing. Like I would do now, would be 500 to $1 million. As soon as I figure out my product, I'm trying to delegate the sales side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe it's a good time to step back a little bit, because we're talking about bringing on the sales trainer and the sales reps pretty early on. But like you had mentioned, we need leads, right? If we don't have leads, what good is it to get sales reps on board if we can't feed them the leads? So, early on, you talked about working for the builders and working as a sub to kind of help fill in some gaps as you're learning, as you're figuring things out. And I think for anybody that's doing this for the first time, there's going to be, a learning process and a learning curve for figuring that out. So that actually working with the builders could be a good way of supplementing and making sure you've got consistency while you're working through those leads or figuring out the lead gen side of it. But maybe talk a little bit about, how did you figure out the lead gen side? Like if you were going to, again, start fresh today and you're going to do the sales trainer right away and you're going to bring in sales reps, that means you know how to bring in some leads, right? And if you were doing it, from scratch, how do you bring in those first few leads and actually get the ball rolling?
So to be super clear, I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay.
I still meet every week and try to figure out how to get better and more leads. But from the beginning, one thing I think is a mindset thing. I had what really slowed me down a lot was I wanted to first get the leads and then hire the salesperson. And with that mindset, you will A, never get the leads, and then B, never hire the salesperson. But I guess to step back, the biggest thing with leads is you have to spend the money on marketing, but even to take a step back before you spend the money, the biggest thing for me is tracking leads. You have to be able to track leads to know your return on your marketing dollars. Like if you can't do that, I would put pause on the business and figure that out as soon as you can. And I know I honestly didn't figure that out for 4 or 5 years. And the amount of money I wasted not knowing that is, way too much.
Me too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But,
Lessons.
again, if I were to, start another business tomorrow, probably the first thing I'd do is get a CRM, figure out, how it's going to look like, get some call tracking numbers set up with CallRail or whoever does it. And every time you place an advertisement, track it and see what's going on, see what your cost per lead is, your marketing percentage. Because really marketing's not like this big creative thing where you're making big splashes. It's trying something, seeing what happens, tweaking it, trying it again, seeing what happens, tweaking it, trying it again. So for getting leads, it's spending a little bit of money, tracking what happens, and tweaking and spending a little more.
Yeah, track lead costs from day one. So that's really, most people probably wouldn't do that. And obviously you guys didn't the first time around. So
nope.
That's how you lose money quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen companies market themselves out of business. I have. And then I've seen companies not market themselves enough, and it's restricted their growth.
Yep. So especially the first 5 years, I would do, get busy and don't spend anything on marketing, slow down, panic and spend way too much on marketing. That vicious cycle instead of the, we're going to pick a budget, whether it's 5%, 10%, 15%, and spend that, every year and every month strategically, instead of reactionary marketing. Like one thing I've told my marketing team too constantly is that marketing's like pushing a rock. If you can keep it going, it's, easy to keep pushing. But if you're starting and stopping all the time, it's so much effort that it's just destructive.
Yeah. You lose the momentum. Yeah. The thing with marketing is, look, I mean, again, Kirk, I know you and I, and even Jonathan, we're beyond the $5 million mark, right? But this podcast is for the guys that what we've been talking about, 500,000, a million, 2 million that are trying to get to 5, right? So we're trying to help them understand, avoid the same mistakes that you and I have made, right? If you truly want to avoid wasting a bunch of money in marketing, you have to have a CRM, right? Or at least a spreadsheet, right? To be able to track how much you're investing, change your mindset because it's not spending anymore. When you really know what you're doing, it's investing and what that return is. But you have to know your numbers, right? You have to know if I invest X amount here, I expect X amount of return, right? And if I don't get that X amount of return over a period of time, this is your marketing system, right? I either tweak the ad, right? Test it, or I rest it, right? I just put it to the side and I stop investing money, right? Dawn Dewey, brilliant. I don't know if do you remember hearing Dawn?
There.
She
blew my mind.
You go to these events and you just hear somebody just put it perfectly, right? Yep. She called it the testing, investing, and resting principle, right?
You do the same thing. Yep.
I mean, what we hear that 2 years ago, Kirk, 3 years ago?
Probably. I think I was sitting by you and we both kind of did looking at each other.
And then it just all made perfect sense. And we've been using that ever since. But like, listeners, you're getting a valuable piece of advice that I wish Kirk and that myself and Kirk probably wished we probably got from day one. Yep. We certainly have a lot more money in the bank now, right? There's testing, investing, and resting, right? So what you have to know your numbers. And when you know those numbers, right, you have a budget. In 5-10% of your budget is in your marketing spend. Some companies spend up to 15-20. Again, it depends on you, right? Typically, when you're a quick turn replacement contractor like you and I are, Kirk, you got to have an abundance of leads, right? Where a general contractor, they might only do 10 or 12 projects a year. So you might get away with a 2% marketing spend if you're a general contractor. But for guys like us that are doing quick turn projects, average projects 1-2 days, you got a crew of 5 guys, you got to have 1,000 projects a year, 2,000 projects a year. You've got to market. So typically that'll look like 5, 10, 15% for a guy like us. Regardless, you got to know what that number is and what you're trying to hit. And then you have to evaluate each lead source and say, okay, is the radio returning? Like in my case, we like to use a 13% marketing budget. Is it 13%? Yes, it is. Okay. It's less. Great. That's going in the investing bucket. That means it's working, right? So we're going to continue to funnel money there. Now we're going to bring in, test a new lead source, right? Because you're always looking, you get to a certain point where you start looking for new lead sources, right, Kirk?
Yep.
Right. So you're going to test. Yeah. So we take 10% of our monthly marketing budget and we test new lead sources. And after 3 months, we evaluate. Is it a 13% or less marketing spend? Yes, it goes in the investing bucket. If it does not, we take it, we put it in the resting bucket, meaning we stop investing in it. Now, even existing leads like radio and like Valpak, like I've had Valpak for 2 years, was a great investment. It was an 8% marketing spend. Last year, it went to 30%. After 3 months, we knew those numbers. We put it in the resting bucket, right? Because why are we going to invest our money in something that's not delivering X return, right? So it's testing new lead sources, knowing your numbers, starts with knowing your numbers, and then investing in the ones that are working, and the ones that aren't, you're resting them. You're putting them to the side. And the reason you rest them is because sometimes you can take them out of the resting bucket, test them again, and then they can actually deliver a certain return.
Yeah, and we've done that multiple times, and that was also kind of an eye-opener for me where, especially with some of these lead aggregators and, Yelp, Angie's List, their hours changing. Yelp was horrible for us for years, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, we picked up the phone and called them, and, they had a different program and renegotiated some stuff, and it started working again. And I can't remember if it is now or not, but,
Angie's List in 2010 to like 17, it was a gold. It was gold. It was gold. It's, speaking of contractors, it was like there was one lead source that everybody could agree on. It was Angie's List was a great investment. And then they were purchased and something changed. And now, from me speaking to other people, they're in most people's resting bucket because they've completely changed, right? So the point we're making here is you have to know your numbers. You have to have a CRM or a spreadsheet, track what your investment is, right? What you're actually spending on those leads. And, guys at the 0 to 2, that are learning this, you need more than one lead source. And it can't all just be repeat and referral. Repeat and referral is great. You should always be doing that. But you're never going to grow, especially if you're a new company. If you want to go to 5 million and beyond, in most cases, not all, you're going to need multiple lead sources. Correct, Kirk?
1,000%. Yeah.
Like I said, I've seen $3 million companies because we travel and some of them are in our masterminds or they go to the events and they have great businesses, right? And some of them decide, hey, this is where I want to stay. And that's fine.
Yep.
Right. But some come to us and they say, I want to go to 20 million. And you're like, okay, great. And they've been in business for 20 years. So they've got a long list of happy clients and they do 2% marketing per year, which is like maybe some Christmas cards, local, ad in a newspaper. You know, it's minimal, right? Maybe a little bit of AdWords, a little bit of Facebook, and they're stuck at 3 million and they want to go to 20, but they're only spending 2%. And you turn around and you say, okay, well, if you want to go to 20, you have to invest 10%. And they look at you like you're crazy. Like, well, you'd probably already be at 20 if you were investing, 10% of your revenue in marketing.
But the key is when you're investing that much, you need to know basically where every penny is going and what the return is.
Yeah. And I see you send your spreadsheets in the group me. Every single quarter, you break it down. You have every single lead source, how many raw leads, how many sets, how many issued, how many demos, how much like you have it completely and you share it with the rest of the group.
Well, you have to when you're, it's easy to be spending more in marketing in a year than your house is worth. So like, why wouldn't you track it, Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But what did you spend last year total on marketing? Do you remember? What was the total dollar amount, not the percentage? Do you remember?
It was 11% of 16.7 million. So 16.7 times 0.11. So 1.8 million.
$1.8 million. Yeah. That's more than your house, correct, Kirk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we spent almost 1.2 million.
Yeah.
Last year. Yeah.
But at 5 million, 10% is 500 grand. Like, if you don't track that, it's going to button hook you at some point.
It's going to get you. Yeah.
So I want to make one point, and then I got another question related to this for you guys. So we talk about investing, right, in these different lead sources. You have to have a process around it, right? You can't just go out like, oh, I'm getting started. I'm going to go, spend all this money with Angie's List or Home Advisor or Yelp or whatever. And then you get a lead coming in and, you get back to them tomorrow or the next day, right? There has to be some kind of process, especially there has to be a speed to lead, right? We got to get to them within a minute or two. Ideally picking up the phone, getting a text message out. Might as well hit them with some emails as well. But we got to get to those leads quick, right? So you can't just go in and say, oh, I tried it and it didn't work. There's a process that has to go along with it. So when we talk about bringing in new lead sources, especially on an advertising or spending money with them to bring in leads, got to have the process around it. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you guys was like John, you mentioned you have to know what you're trying to hit, right? Your 13% is what you're trying to hit in terms of a marketing cost. But, and Kirk, maybe I'll start with you and ask you this question. Like, let's say the numbers, you said 11%, right? If the number you're trying to hit is 11%, how do you know what that number is that you're trying to hit? And like, especially when you're tying back to your profit model.
To be clear, I was trying to hit 9% last year. But it was at the point where I could spend a little more and it made sense with profitability. But honestly, what you have to do is just pick a number and stick to it. I tried to hit 9% as the year progressed. I loosened up my budget because, as I'm watching my lead sources and learning, I saw that, okay, with where we're at, I can spend a little more in marketing and, because really you're trying to pay off your overhead every month. And that's kind of a longer story, but if nothing else, just pick a number somewhere between, I'd say between 7% and 20%, depending on what product you have. But the best way to do it is go find somebody, if you're at if you're at 3 million, go to an event or network or somewhere, find a couple companies at, wherever you want to be, 5 to 6 million, network with those companies and ask them, hey, what's your marketing budget at? Because it's different with windows, roofing. As a percentage wise, it varies between, I'm going to say 6 and 24%, depending on the product and home improvement. So the short answer is I would find some people that are doing well. Ideally, especially, I would find, and doing well is also a relative term, I would get to know people enough, like John and I have shared our P&Ls. I like to see people's P&L because if someone's doing 6 million and they tell you to spend 12% on marketing, but they're not making any money, like you don't necessarily want to take advice from that person.
Well, there are guys in this industry, and Brian's told the story that got up on stage doing 100 million top line.
Yes,
and
without making money,
and they lost 12 million. Yeah. And then there's guys that are doing 3 million top line that are dropping $1 million to the bottom line, right? So it's like, it's revenue for vanity, profit for sanity. I always say the bottom line is the bottom line. Again, it goes back to knowing your numbers, right? It's not just tracking your lead sources. It's also building out a profit model, right? So I've been to every single Profit Masters event that Brian and Mark Curry has held. So I think there's 5 of them. I've been to every single one of them, but you build it out, right? So you have your COGS budgeted in, right? Every November I sit down and I say, okay, this is, what we want to do next year on the top line. And then we just back out all the numbers.
Yep. There's only 100% available.
It's 100%, right? So it's like, okay, out of that 100%, here's material, here's labor, here's commission, here's marketing, here's overhead, and here's profit, right? So I like to start with the profit number that I'm shooting for, which is we always shoot for 20%. And then you just build out everything around it, right? And then you have to adjust your pricing sometimes to be able to hit those numbers, right? You have to pay attention to your numbers. You have to be tracking your financial statements at least monthly to know where you are, but you have to have a plan.
I think that's more important than having the right plan is just having the plan. Cause you plan, say I'm going to spend 10% this year. Map that out. And then 1 month goes by and you're going to just whether you're right or wrong or whatever on the 10%, just the fact that you're looking at it, maybe it's 9% and you say, okay, let's look at another month. And now it's 11% and now you're averaging out 10%. Or maybe it's 20% the first month and 25% the next month. And then you need to change something up because now you're not making money. So I think it's more important. And I held off a long time to try to get, the right number rather than just come up with a plan, start tracking, and then quickly adjust.
It's really knowing your numbers, right? If you're going to be an operator, you've got to know your numbers. If the plan is 13% and in January you spent a ton of money and so here's what you need to understand. Marketing is directly affected by your sales team, right? So if you go in and you say, okay, we're going to do $1 million in January, that means we're going to spend $130,000, right? 13%. And you give $130,000 to your marketing director and he or she spends $130,000, right? And you get all of those leads and all of those demos and your sales team goes from 30% close now to 50. Man, that 13%, it's 8.
Yeah.
Right. So it's knowing where you are. It's making the adjustments. You even spoke about that. Like your plan was 9, but then midway through last year, you adjusted it up to 11. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, just like you said, as you go, we're spending millions on marketing now, but you still, like my 9% was still wrong technically, but as we went through the months, we had additional sales capacity and it's like, okay, if I spend, we grew 60% last year. So it's like, if I spend, 2% more than our budget, but we're getting whatever, 40% boost in sales, like, of course I'm going to do that,
We get into these discussions and he talks about like sales capacity and I'm like, oh, we can go on another half hour about that. There's just so much to know, right, Kirk? It's just like, it's amazing what we've learned. And again, the goal of this podcast is to help, these guys that are new or that are in that, sub $2 million range. That's why I'm bringing on guys like yourself and the people that are in our groups, because we're all beyond that. I want to be able to provide something, some sort of information to those people where they go, oh, damn it, I got it. Thank you so much. Right. It's valuable, right? Something that we didn't have access to for free.
And so I wanted to just clarify a couple things, because I know we've been talking about some numbers and some terms and things like that, right? And John, you mentioned COGS. COGS is cost of goods sold. Typically, that's your labor and your material cost when you're looking at your P&L. And then also, we're talking a lot about marketing costs, right? And 9%, 11%, 13%, 24%, whatever it is, right? And it's the amount of money that you're spending on your marketing as a percentage of your total sales, right? And that's when you're looking at, again, your P&L, you're starting with 100% at the top with your revenue. You got your net profit down at the bottom. Let's say that's like a 20%, and then if marketing is 13%, that's right there in that P&L. That's taking away from the 100, but you've got now if it's 13%. And you've got a 20% net profit, you're at 33. So you still got another 67 to go. You got 67 to allocate across overhead, across COGS, and other things like that. So just wanted to clarify a couple of those things in case any of that was confusing.
Well, after COGS, that's when you have your gross profit.
Right.
I think that's most companies, that's like their first line that they measure their profitability.
Yeah.
Right. They look at that number, and I made this mistake for years. It's like, oh, I have a 50% gross profit. That's good, right? It's like, oh, okay. But then I didn't track my overhead.
Yep.
And I realized, like, oh, I'm spending a ton of money. I can't operate a profitable business at a 50% gross profit. I need a 65, right? So again, these are just some of the mistakes that, newer contractors that I made. I'm sure Kirk has made, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's learning how to really read a P&L. But again, it all boils down to having a process, knowing your numbers, being able to track, even on the sales side. Like once you have a sales system, you contract with somebody, you've got to know the numbers, right? Like when you hire salespeople and you issue them leads, you have to know their numbers, right? So that you can hold them accountable to the system. Sorry, I love droning on and on. I'm real passionate about teaching people this. You know this about me, Kirk. I love talking this.
You got a good voice too, so you're easy with
I have a voice for radio. Yeah, John, ask the question.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I was trying to think about the phrase. It's, people say I got a face for radio. Is that what the phrase is?
Face for radio.
Yeah. I wasn't saying that about you. I'm just saying that's the.
Okay, I'm losing my hair. I was pointing out this little brain chip going on.
Hey, we both got our issues. It's all good.
We were discussing that before Kirk popped on with it. So it's okay. It's getting old. That happens to all of us.
So maybe I think, one other, I think, really interesting topic that we can talk about as far as the evolution, Kirk, that you went through with Ibex, going from 0 to 5 is bringing on, is like the process around your people and just the processes in general. And I know EOS is something that you brought on pretty early on, within, at your company. So maybe talk a little bit about the thought process around that and what made you move to EOS and why was that helpful as you were growing and scaling the company?
Because Kirk did that faster than most.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Kirk brought on EOS at around
so I had used it at when I knew I worked at the fence and deck company for like 12 years, and I knew I was planning on quitting. Great friends with the owner. I got introduced to it at some point then, and I just like the way it laid out, where we're going and what kind of people we work with, basically. And so I think I brought that on around, I don't know, 2 or 3 million. Once you get some people there to start getting things confusing. But ultimately, what that really helped us with was getting figure out, get every share like the vision with everybody. Here's where we're going. Here's where we're going to be. And then also it helped with getting in a weekly meeting pulse where we were, going over issues and having like a place to discuss issues and just chip away at them. Oh, lastly, it helped us really define the type of people that we want at the company. And I think that, with those three things, I think that's, 90% of the benefit from EOS. I don't know, so kind of just helping give you the vision of and sharing it with, distilling it down so that everybody can understand, here's where the company's going. Here's the type of people that we want. And we're going to meet every week and talk about it. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Yeah. And then, EOS, and I should have mentioned it before, but is the entrepreneurial operating system. It's a set of processes and principles for, how you, just all the things that you're talking about, right? Who you work with, who you are, your core values, your 3 uniques, your marketing plan, your 1-year target, your 3-year target, your 10-year target, and just setting the vision and making sure that everybody's bought in, right people, right seats, all kinds of different, principles and processes associated with this. And there's a few other, there's other similar processes and systems as well. But, EOS is something that's really, caught on.
It's popular in our industry. It's actually, I've listened to a bunch of other podcasts, and it's popular in a lot of other industries too.
Yeah. And we're running on it, right? As a software company, we're running on EOS now as well.
It's not rocket science. It's basically, they compiled a bunch of good books and put together and made a great framework for it. I have seen, one caveat is, you still got to do the work. It's not gonna, just by implementing EOS doesn't mean it's gonna fix all your problems. You got to you still got to roll up your sleeves and put in the work. It's a great framework, and it'll get you, if you plan it right, it'll get you where you want to go, and you break it down. But there's no silver bullets in this industry. You got to do the work. So
you have to do the work. Yeah. You have to do the work.
When did you start with it, Kirk? When did you bring EOS into your company?
I'm going to say must have been 2017, actually.
Okay. That's about 2 years in.
What's that?
That's about 2 years in, right, to your business. And how many people did you have in your company at the time?
I probably had around I'm gonna guess 12 people, 12, 14.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, that's pretty good.
How many do you have now, Kirk, in the business? You don't even really know.
Yeah, if I had to guess, it'd be like around 60 or something employees plus subs. So
yeah. It's funny.
50, 60s.
You don't know.
So
I walked in the office 2 days ago. There was 2 new people there. I was like, hey, hi.
Yeah, I had to do the company meeting I fly back once a month to do the company meeting, and we did the birthdays, and it was some people I hadn't met yet, so that was kind of
you get to a certain point you're just hiring key employees, and then those key employees are hiring employees, and you walk in the office, you're like, hi, and most of the time they know you, right? Because you're on board. There's typically a welcome message from the owner. So you walk in and they're like, hey, John, Kirk. You're like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Jonathan, that's happening to you too, isn't it? In Build Pride?
To a certain extent. I still interview everybody that comes on board. So I meet them before they come on board. I do the final interview for everybody.
If you can do that as long as you can, I think that's great.
Yeah, but again, it's just like sales. It's not scalable.
Yeah, it's not.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see where my role evolves, right? At some point, it might not be scalable, but it could be scalable up to 200 people or, something like that. It could be, depending on how I want to focus my time and where I think, my time is best spent. I'm still, for the foreseeable future, that's my intention.
Listen, there's no doubt that the people that work for you, they are I think your most important asset, correct, Kirk? Right? Like you have to have great people.
Especially in this industry, that's really, you have your systems and you have your people. You don't have any there's no secret formula.
That's that you want to get that momentum, that 10 million plus. That's what I'm starting to learn. You're further along than I am, but it's having your sales and marketing system and all of that, your numbers, knowing. But then when you really want to go beyond that, we don't touch on this very much, but then it's really putting good people in place, I think, to really build that momentum and go beyond. That's at least what I've seen from other people like yourself and, the Scott Bermans of the world and, the Brian Gottliebs, all of these guys that have built, 20 million, $100 million plus companies. They'll have great people. Surround themselves with great people.
So just coming back real quick to the EOS thing again, and when you implemented it, Kirk, can you talk a little bit about, what was the difference before and after? Like, what did that enable, for you personally, as well as for, for your company? Did that, and again, it's like you said, it's just a framework. It's just a set of systems, but, it really does help to focus, and make sure everyone's aligned. So maybe just talk a little bit about that. Like, what did that really enable for you? And what do you credit it with making a significant impact in your business?
Yeah, I would say I do. And so I came from a company that was using EOS, and I kind of knew in my head what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. But what really helped me was sharing that with the team and getting the team to see like this is, because it's hard as an owner to set the pace, protect the culture, show everybody where you want to go. And it really, forced me to put it on paper and then eventually put it on the wall. And so everybody could see, this is what IBEX is about. This is where we're going. This is the type of people we want to hire. Which probably doesn't sound like that big of an aha moment, but just having that throughout the organization constantly really gets everybody going in the same direction. And then the other thing is like having a place to talk about stuff. Because as a business, everybody wants to do everything right now. And it really forces you to prioritize, what are we going to work on this week and this quarter? And, what things, say, we want to, a big one that we had was like, reoccurring maintenance plans. And, we were able to put that on the long-term issues list. So we just weren't going to deal with it this quarter. And frankly, we still don't have it. So it's been 10 years and it's still on the long-term issue plan. We'll probably frankly never do it, but instead of talking about it every week and every quarter, we prioritized, got that out of our way and focused on the things that were important. So ultimately it led to growth. And then what's really freaky is, when you start making your plan and putting it on paper, looking back, several years that I think when I started in 2017, I had a 7 or 10 year plan, and we've basically done, when we're making that plan, it felt super impossible. And then, looking back 10 years, we've exceeded everything on that plan. So that's probably the biggest impact is just a framework to, put all your effort and energy into.
Yeah. So, alignment, right? Some of this stuff sounds wishy-washy and, like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I think we're all aligned, but, it really does help you get alignment across the team, helps you focus on the things that are important and not on the things that aren't, like the things that are on your long-term issues list. Really measure where you are in your business. So, yeah, I think if you have the framework to follow, you don't have to follow it. Not everybody follows it to a T and all of that, but having the framework to follow is, I think a really powerful thing in a home improvement business, in a software business, in a lot of different kinds of businesses, right? So, especially when you're, 150, 200 employees or less, it's really a good, it's a good framework that, as you start to build up the different people and, having people in your company and making sure that, you all need to be on the same page. It's, just, I think the sooner the better to get going with some of those processes. It's always really helpful.
What's the plan for this year, buddy? What are you going to be doing we're in January of 2025. What's the goal for this year? What's the big hairy audacious goal? I know you come up with some pretty big goals every year. What do you The BHAG. What is your BHAG for 2025?
So our theme for the year is we're actually going to do our theme last year was do fewer things better, and that was our biggest growth year ever. Our theme this year is to do even fewer things even better. And we're planning on 23 million this year. So for revenue, so about 25 for sales with backlog.
23 for revenue, 25 for the top line sales, 23 installed. You're talking about, correct? Yeah. And what's the profitability? Where are you looking to be on the profitability? The net 10%, 15%, 20%. What's the goal?
My goal is 15% EBITDA.
Yeah. So do the math, guys. That's it's truly a wealthy contractor right there. When you learn to do all of these things, you can make a wonderful living in this industry. Correct, Kirk?
Yeah, it's been good.
It's been okay. I'm about to buy that jacket there for why I love that jacket. You gotta buy me one 2X. Bring it to Accelerate in 2 weeks when I see it.
Will you wear it?
You know what? It's gonna be cold. We're gonna be in Amelia Island. That's North Florida, so it's gonna be cold. You bring that down.
They're heavy too. They're wool.
I'm throwing that on because it's not very warm there this time of year in North Florida. So, yeah, Jonathan, I think we're at about an hour and 15. Talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, this was awesome. Kirk, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your knowledge and experience. I thought this was fantastic. Lots of great tips and strategies and all kinds of things for the listeners. So, yeah,
we can talk about so much more, Kirk. I mean, it's you get into a discussion, you talk about a little bit marketing and sales, and then EOS, and you're like, oh my God, we can do so much more. So in the future, we'd like to have you back on if you'd like. But
sure.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. And really enjoy your company and seeing you when we get away. Love and respect you, buddy. You're a force in the industry, and whenever you speak, people should listen.
Well, thanks for saying that.
All right, let's wrap it up. Let's give the outro there, Jonathan, and we'll wrap it up. Go ahead.
We'll see you next time on the Build to Win podcast. Bye, everybody.
Take care.
See ya.